All right, why don't we get going and at least I can do the introduction. So thank you everyone for coming. It is my great pleasure to introduce Associate Professor William Nardin, who is at the University of Maryland Center for Environmental Science, which is a great institution over in Chesapeake Bay in the US. So I can give you a little bit of background. I've got it printed out here on my iPad. So Will finished his Ph.D. in environmental engineering from the University of Rome in Italy. And then he did postdoc research at Indiana University, Boston University, which is when I actually met William. We did a project in the Mekong Delta together, and then University of California in Berkeley. And then since finishing at Berkeley, he's been at Maryland at the Horn Point Laboratory. And he's going to talk to us today about nature-based solutions.
Thank you very much, Julia. The kind introduction. So yeah, there will be some space just to introduce the NBS concept, because I'm not sure if you all are aware of nature-based solution, what does it mean? And then I will check two different examples. I started when I landed in Maryland to 2017. So, the first one is going to be the oyster bioreef, and I will tell the oyster, I didn't know nothing about oysters until landing there. We have one of the biggest hatchery, we have the biggest hatchery because they are building a bigger one in New York, I guess. But so far we have the biggest hatchery, oyster hatchery on the eastern side of the US. And that was living shoreline, something that we are starting. It's really a new kind of coastal protection made of rock seal and marsh on the back that in Maryland is regulated that you have to build in that way. There you have to prove that you cannot build in that way to build with a great infrastructure. So it's also we have some work, we start some work on living shoreline. And then wetland restoration, so the image before on Poplar Island, where we are, it's really a playground for geomorphologists, ecologists, sedimentologists, because there's a lot of new designing there that's happening, also as engineer too. So first let's take a moment to think nature-based solution, because for a long time we talk about ecological engineering or engineering with nature, blue and green city, depending on where we are thinking to work with, sometimes, but also depend from the regions, right? Because if you go in Scandinavian region, they have a definition. In the Netherlands, eco-shape. If you are in US, you are familiar with the NNBF, natural and natural-based features, or now it's engineering with nature. So there's a lot of different names, but they are talking all about the same thing, acting and restoring with the ecology, for example, environmental, coastal environments, or riverine environment too. So this is the definition by the United Nations. You can read there. So the next step, focusing on the coastlines, of course, it's a paper on National Geoscience. There was 10 years ago now, 11 years ago. There is investigating as a first step the different approaches, right? So if you look at the different lines, you have estuaries on the below one, you have more the coastline with the sandy coastlines. And you can see how the effects of, so all the orange line in the first plot here is showing all the orange part of the gray infrastructure. You can see constrain the storm surge, of course, you can amplify the storm surge effect inside the estuaries. And then you have wetland degradation because you are not importing sediment, and then you have subsidence. It's going to happen anyway in cities, in that area. But if you build and then, for the first column is a conventional coastal engineering, gray infrastructure. But if you think more green, ecosystem-based coastal defense, you can maybe add reef on the coastlines, opening up and making the wetland flooding so you can import sediment, or maybe adding more, wetland creation too, right? So you're going to have substance anyway in the areas, but then you can have the other part of the system reacting and trapping sediment and creating in the long term. If you move in the coastlines, these are referred more for beach nourishment, specifically for work that has been done in the Netherlands with the sand engine. I don't know if you're familiar with this kind of project. They dump a huge amount of sand just in one time, not like periodically, but like in a big nourishment. And they are now tracking how the sediment is moving to the dune system, which is better than having like a seawall, because a seawall will stop the sediment to go back. So also there are now all, it's somewhere, let's say in Maryland, maybe you can do like green, totally green, because you have a space, we have enough, well, even like, some cities, there is no space, but mostly we have like a land which allow the flooding, right? You can flood, you can trap the sediment. But if you are, for example, like in Miami, you have no space. So you have to do something else. You have to, anyway, do like some gray infrastructure. So you can combine green and gray. You do a hybrid. You can do like a minimal defense with no defense at all. I don't think it's gonna work. But in natural defense are all green. But something that is also mentioned in the Temmerman work is that we need space to do green. So maybe the solution is gonna merge gray and green together. And why it's important, because also like most of the humans live near the coast. So like, very, very well in New Zealand, but now 50% of the human lives within 200 kilometers of the coast. And there's a large societal reliance on coastal, like dense human communities, and it's a large driver also for the economy too. If we go specifically in Maryland, coastal flooding in the recent time is really like something almost bi-monthly happening, for example, in Cambridge. This is a picture, I think, from Annapolis, where now there's an area like daily flooded because the sea level rise. It's especially like in Maryland. It's one of the greatest in the US, and we have like a centimeter per year. So I want to show like this picture because I really show like it's in feet, but it's showing like the day of flooding. Now it's you see from 1950 to 2015 now is increasing this frequency of flooding on the normal. It's like a sunny day flooding or nuisance flooding. So, and the sea level rise is projected to be 1.12 meter by 2100 in Chesapeake Bay. And if we do not act now, we don't know if we're going to be able to have a normal life, because once you flooded the road, like the school buses are not going to go, and then you're going to have your kids home, and you're not going to work, right? So it's going to impact a lot of the life. So this is an example from Little Choptank River. So my lab is here. Right here, this is the Choptank River, is a Little Choptank River. Those are 3 islands that we are restoring now, James Island. I'm working there. So I will show like another study case like from Poplar Island. And you can see that the sides, those are 30 years. You can see the side, the yellow is at the end of the 30 years, and the red line is showing like at the beginning in like 1980. So there is a lot of land living, because it's not only erosion. Now, most of the locals think it's erosion. So waves, we always saw like erosion around. The waves always erode the islands. And basically, it's not sea level rise, it's just waves. It's waves. But I think the waves are attacking at the different elevation, and they are able to erode more. That's the key point. So let's start from the first approach. So I would say like the Maryland is very open mind. Like they really push on natural-based solution, especially with the new administration, even at the national level. So we had the opportunity to have like different grants to work, and you can see, for example, like an infrastructure. It's called a riprap, or now it's a breakwater. That was a riprap. You can see the signs of erosion on the back. So from 1998, it was like working more or less, to now it's completely flooded. It's drowning. So the idea is breakwaters are common features around Chesapeake Bay to protect from the waves attack, waves erosion. So I think we want to try to add something there, for example, oyster, to see if they can grow vertically and create like a better dynamic structure, right? Because not only, so with sea level rise, the level is going to grow, and then oyster are going to grow with the sea level. So this is the idea. Yeah, this is also like, this is an example showing 4 breakwaters. And this is the only road that serves like a community of 50 other people in the back here. So that road is going to be flooded. Like we know that really like though they built recently those breakwaters, but they're not working properly because also like the gray infrastructure is not able to react. So that's an example of a sketch showing more or less what is the situation now, right? So the water level, if we build a breakwater now, the engineer want to build somehow to dump as more waste as possible. Everything is going to deposit on the back, and the coastline is going to be protected. But what happens if the sea level is rising? So then we will have like the waves are not dumping. Like maybe there are some that we will still have like 10 or 20% of dampening, but then you start to have erosion on the coastline. And then you have less deposition on the back, a lot of export of sediment, and you're going to lose land essentially. So the idea is like adding oysters to those infrastructure. The oyster can build like a structure that in the long term is going to rise to the sea level, and then is able to dampen the waves and protect the coastal lines. So to do that, we found these blocks. Those blocks are called the oyster castles. They're like 25 kilos, I think 20 kilos. I think you can pass to each other. With a lot of we build like we're sure like what we build. We build something of a code. And this is the difference between you can see that they have small oysters. You see that down. So it's a cinder block made of concrete and oyster shell. So the oyster really found a good substrate to attach and to grow. And you can see like a well-developed one. After 1 year, you have like this structure. So that's Virginia. That's this company is in Virginia. It's like in the Virginia coastal bays. We have some challenges in the Chop Tank River because it's too fresh. So we have a different kind of oyster. It's kind of complicated, but it's like more on the ecology side, which is like I have another colleagues taking care of that part. For me, it's just I want like a structure. Anything is I don't care much about that one. I want to be clear. So they create like a 3D structure, fully developed. They can self-repair. Even if you have like an event, an extreme event, breaking the structure, they also are able to grow on top of each other and create like a new. They self-repair essentially. And they provide several ecosystem services because they also like remove a lot of nutrients from the water. So you have like also the benefit of increasing the water quality. So, but there's a but there. So we've discovered like a lot of problems with recruitment, salinity, and the main water level are crucial for the oyster survival. So essentially, let's think about like this oyster. You have an oyster somehow, and then the oyster survival decrease, increasing the intertidal position because the top one they get stressed by ice in the winter. They suffer also for desiccation in the summer, so they have a lot of issues. Also, they get harvesting, they get eaten by boats sometimes, so that they die essentially. But if you think, for example, so this curve translated the so the salty region they are more resilient, while the hot region they have like those issues, like they are less resilient. So that's the ecology side of this oyster reef. So this is how an ecologist think. As an engineer, I think this. I want to be built as much as possible, as high as possible, because I want to be sure to dump 100% of the waves. I don't care about oysters. So I'm just kidding, because I know that I need the oysters alive. Otherwise, I'm not going to work, right? This is not going to work. So the trade-off between me and my colleagues is, there's a guy who's an ecophysiologist and working oysters. Say, okay, let's do this like a subtitle. That for me was a big trade-off. And then let's see, if the oysters survive, essentially. So we found that we got like a sweet spot there. So it's can be good for both, more or less. So we build so we are lucky because we are right on the Chesapeake Bay in the Chop Tank River, and we have a cove in our backyard, essentially. So we asked for permit, and then they granted a permit, even if you have to go through like a long process because there is no, of course, oysters structure mentioned in this permit, just living shoreline. You have to explain what you're going to do, why you're going to do. It's gonna damage SAV, it's going to damage marshes. There's a lot of political agencies problem there that we have to solve. So, but at the end we did it after 9 months, like a baby. We got finally a permit, and then we built like 4 different backwaters. And we also had like some old backwaters that after this first deployment, we also build on top of 4 backwaters. They are underwater. I don't know if you can see them. You can see like it's like a bark. They're not outside anymore. They're underwater. So we build also on top of them to see like if the oyster can colonize the rocks below the blocks. And this is my student Jacob, just graduated, and he was like really helping a lot with this project. Actually, he did almost everything. So, and those are the signs of erosion that we have in our cove. So, and then all those trees in 2017, they were up. So there's a picture from 2021 or 2022. So the erosion by the waves is increasing, but also there are other effects. But the erosion, we were able to stop some of the erosion, so not all of it. So, but coming back to our permit, so to convince them really, so we have to first do like some preliminary experiment, even because there was nothing in literature showing how we can do this kind of how the breakwater really impact on the back the marshes. So because we have to be honest with the agency, the Department of Environment, saying that that's true that we're gonna reduce the boundary erosion, but also we are reducing the amount of sediment going on top of the marsh, which is making like the marsh more resilient in the long term. So it was a kind of trade-off, and this is like just one example of the experiment with the depth that we did with the breakwater. And then now that's also like a structure that we build. Like you can see this structure, all the green stuff, it's no good. This algae. So the algae killed everything in the beginning. So that's, you have to also learn something. So we a lot of errors, a lot of issues. So we learned that, summertime is not a good time to do that, to seed and put them, because it's like a huge competition. Crabs go there, they detach and eat everything. Barnacles, mussels, algae, everything was against oysters. The oyster didn't survive, of course. But the subtitle one, yes, they survived, the subtitle. So at the end, we removed the top one and put the oysters on top. So they are now happy because they are very happy. But there's another issue. Those oysters you can see, they are almost all the same size because they're all brothers and sisters. There's no recruitment. So in the long term, if they die, nobody's going to colonize them. So we are hoping that maybe they can kind of reproduce, but we don't think that's really like so recruitment is very important. You have to be in an active area where you have oyster larvae going around. So they can, once they found this substrate, they're going to be happy, they're going to touch it and then grow. But there was like no really good also position. So we are struggling, we are working on it, still working on it. So we did our deployment, and then we also track the morphological evolution. So because we want to see like the sediment transport, we want to see also how much waves they can dampen, how much sediment is accumulating on the back. So we started our measurements as engineers and geomorphologists to understand the morphodynamics. So these are our deployment. Waves are coming directly from their position from the north. And we had like 2 aquadoppler and a buoy measuring the water level and also the significant wave height and period. Also along the different breakwaters, we track with transects. We also did some survey to create a 3D model of the bathymetry. And we discovered that somewhere we have like erosion, sometimes we have like, they're looking at for example, plot A, transect number 1, the first one, you can see we have erosion because in July 2019, we had like higher elevation. The black line shows the higher elevation, the red line shows like a lower elevation of the 3 years. Because essentially the waves are able to go behind the breakwater and the road on that side. Transect 2 on the other side actually showing deposition. So because there was also like in the, we knew that we have to angle them, but we really didn't get like the permit to do that because there was like some distance. We cannot go too far away from the coastline. So we have to deploy in there with that angle. So we had some issues with the erosion and deposition. Also, like this is like mostly like the deployment, the wind that we measured in the study site. You can see also like this northwest direction, which is like entering and aligned with our backwaters. And what we found initially is if you look at the plot A, so the black line shows the water level measured in Cambridge, which is like a couple of kilometers from our study site, and the green circle showing like the water level we measure with the aqueduct. And you can see like it is a good agreement between the aqueduct and the NOAA station. And also we checked the significant wave height in front of the breakwater, so with the spotter buoy, and then on the back with the aquadoppler high resolution. And we saw there is like some wave dampening, right? You can see there's some reduction on significant wave height. The blue line is showing like the measurements before the breakwaters are higher than but what we're looking for, like what's the difference between high tide and low tide? So we were expecting, actually I was pretty happy to see 52% of wave dampening with the high tide, because I thought like, it's gonna be, the waves are gonna be over and that's it. But then the waves that in this experiment were very, kind of high for this kind of system, like, 0.5 meter, 0.4. So they were big enough. And, but the low tide, we had like 95% of dampening, which was like, I would say like a success. So then, after we measure, we validated our measurements with the spotter buoy and the aqueduct current profiler. Then we went to models because we wanna do some gaming with sea level rise, so to be sure. And then actually during the period we got lucky that we had a huge high tide and then a huge low tide, and the all was empty, and we flew the drone with structure for motion with a very good visualization model. So the oil is always flooded there. It's always like a half meter, a meter of water. But you can see like my student standing there close to a pressure sensor, Sarah. So she was helping with the kind of measurements. So we built our model. You can see the model there, like with a small grid, like 2 by 5 meters, and then outside the Choptank River with a bigger grid to develop the waves with the wind. So we have wind measurements. We can actually create our wave conditions with the wind. So now that we have measurements from NOAA station, measurements with aquadoppler current profiler, then we start to model the condition that we had. And we had like a good agreement again for water level. You can see on top a little bit less with the significant wave height. You can see there are some points that we're missing, but probably I think we found it was like due to the grid. So we don't know, especially those 2 peaks there, which is the blue line shows like the spotter buoy measurements, and then the model is not able to catch those peaks. Essentially because I think this was like kind of refraction from the breakwater. We stayed enough far from the breakwater to do not feel the breakwater, but I think there was some, with the bigger waves, maybe there was some reflection, some refraction that impacted the measurements. So the gaming, and I will show just the gaming, but we'll not show the results because otherwise we're going to stay here 2 days. So that's so essentially the goal was we want to see sea level rise. So we want to found 4 scenarios with the actual water level, 20-year sea level rise projection, 50 and 100 years. So we did all those 4 scenarios, and on top of those 4 scenarios, we had 4 scenarios for wind wave energy, and also 3 landscape, because we want to see like no breakwater, and breakwater with oysters. But breakwater with oysters was missing a piece, because we need to really like know the drag coefficient of the oysters on top of the breakwater. So we have to go in the lab, and then we show you like in the next part. So at the end, we were able to, this kind of results, morphodynamic results, just an example of results. You can see there was erosion here, so we have accumulation of sediment. You can see this red part is a sediment accumulating there after some times, like after a few years of reproduction. You can see there this immediate wave height, which is increasing here. That means we have erosion on this side, and this is what we found like also in our measurements. So we were good enough. It's it's published in Bonn and Nardin 2023. We have another 2 papers coming out from this experiment. This isn't why I'm not going to show a lot, because otherwise it's going to be very intense. So then we jump in the flume, because we want to see like the drag coefficient. We really want to understand. So we take our blocks, put in a van, and the van went from Maryland to Illinois in Urbana-Champaign, where we have like it was available wave flume, where we tested some for example, blocks, oysters and no oysters, right? So these are all the configuration we tried. You can see here's one, like so we 3D printed the blocks in scale 1 to 8, like small blocks. And then we attach them, and we show like in the next figure, like, and then we also do a structural promotion with the blocks, and we create like all those combinations, because we say like, okay, we can do like, this is what we have done like in the code. But what about we dissipate the wave not only for impact and roughness, but also only for roughness at the bottom, right? Let's try this. Let's go combine them. Let's do a bigger. So we try, there's a lot of gaming around, and with a different water level, different velocities, but with the values close to what we have measured in the field. So that's like the particle image velocimetry. So I hope the other one is gonna start there. Okay, this is particle image velocimetry here. This is like just a video with a phone. And you can see the flow direction, you can see some recirculation on the back. So this was good enough to estimate the drag coefficient, because we know the flow before and after. So we can understand the strength of the block to dissipate the energy going from one side to the other side. So this is actually the results from the velocity reaction intensity from the PID. And those are the 2 different case scenarios. You can see like those are with the oysters. These are without oysters. We are comparing the 2 different results. So, and also this is the velocity profile. You can see the velocity profile, like all those lines. These are again with oysters and without oysters. You can see also the circulation is happening, and also we are looking also at this different erosion on the back, so the whole time in this direction. So here too, we're not going to show like the results, because but what we found is like the drag coefficient increase with oysters on top, of course, because there's more roughness, more dissipation for the energy. But what's next? Next is that we got funded again. So this is a bigger project. Now we have to go in a huge flume. It's like 30 by 50 meters. We're gonna create a real waves here. And we're gonna do 2 different reefs in a facility we have in Vicksburg, Mississippi. And we're gonna build our reef there, all of sediment, all of shoveling, 3 students shoveling sand all day long. It's gonna be good for them. So, and then we're gonna find like different ways. So this flume is so big that you can also get so it's a pump system, recirculate the water in critical conditions. So we're gonna do a long-shot current too. So that's an opportunity, but they really give you like the money to say, you go in Mississippi, you work there. So the students are gonna work there summer 2025. Okay, part 2. There's another, so the project that just showed, was actually the first part of the oyster reef was all small, many different foundations. And the big one is funded by US Corp Engineer. This is also funded by US Corp Engineer because there is a huge interest in engine with nature right now. They really want to understand better how those systems react. And the goal here was, can we use everything we know from natural marshes for living shorelines, understanding the lateral erosion, how the marsh can expand. So that was the goal of the project. So the living shoreline, this is a picture of a living shoreline, like a rock seal and marsh on the back. These are 16 years old. And as I will show you, there are some problems. These are close to Ocean City. So again, we did some field measurements and the different seasons. And also we did some, we developed a numerical model with the F31 again. So those are like essentially field work was twice a year, 2021, 2022. We did like a vegetation biomass, sediment cores, GPS survey, and to check elevation. With the drone, we developed like a digital elevation model. And we also did some sediment cores to beryllium derived sediment deposition. Size. So we worked with another colleague together to prepare the model. Essentially, all this data they feed the model. But also comparing the two environments, we discovered that the natural marsh actually is eroding like very well, like almost 4 meters in 5 years. So it's a huge amount. You can see like the signs of erosion, and this is very cool. There's something you can see this lamp here. These are all mussels together, and they hold up all the land. So the land is like attached to mussels. All the boundary is mussel community. They are building those, and the marsh is growing in the middle of these small spaces of mussels. I should write a proposal on this, but I don't have time. So the other study side was so this is called Sunset Island. It's a residence village, and they have like a natural marsh. On the other side, they have a living shoreline, pretty old, 16 years old, which is kind of good for Maryland because they are building a lot now, but they were kind of precursor of this new technology. So, but they are also experiencing erosion too, and then we call like open water conversion. So there is also erosion there because it's sea level rise, I will tell you. But it's so we try to quantify because what really is important for nature-based solution and what the engineers are looking for is quantification. So because what we discovered in the living shoreline, it was built with a kind of flat slope. It also was not in the right elevation. So really they suffer a lot from the wave attack. So we did some some work really with the GPS and drone data at the beginning, and we found that the proportion of water increased as the elevation of some marsh decreased, and at the same elevation, the natural marsh was more likely to convert to open water. So it was really like something that was kind of well known in marshes, but we didn't expect in living shoreline because we expect there was like a boundary was like a same that boundary with the rock seal, but the rock seal was not really working well. So and then also we saw like there's also a lack of sediment, right? Sea level rise and the lack of sediment. All those bays they have no sediment actually, no sediment input, because the few rivers that are around they are done for agriculture or farming, so there's no like a real lot of sediment coming down from those rivers. So in fact, we found like a peak of sediment deposition in July. And look here, like the discharge of this small river right close to the study site. So we have like a peak here, and then we went to October. It was was not peaks here a lot of nothing. It was like in spring. So spring really there was a lot of sediment. And then we had no sediment again, and then we had a little bit of peak, like less than the one. We had again increasing deposition. So there is a really a big dependence not only from sea level rise, but also like from sediment inputs. This kind of close. The second part is kind of short. So because I think we need a break here. So, but the third part it's something I really like it because it's a playground for me. So it's all, you can see all these marshes here, they have been built between 2000, every 2000, and we're still building those. Still like working in this area here now. This is a new one, this is a new there. Like it was started like an island, you know, the size you can see now, but was then it was like I think one up to 10 proportion was left. So we are monitoring. We are also assisting the company there to develop those channels at the right elevation marshes, different marshes. So we have like 2 different kinds of marshes. We are mapping with my fancy drone. That is German, and we can fly the drone there now. So also we're measuring the channel, all the different velocities. This is just a quick overview of the approach that we use, a Doppler current profiler for in the channels for flow velocity and backscatter intensity, GPS and drone for elevation, and visco sampler for suspended sediment concentration, and quadrats and drone for estimate the vegetation. So what we noticed, for example, in one cell that we started with this cell 1B, that there was since we had like all the project, all the definition. So we have the year 0. So, and then we are monitoring from year 0. So we saw, first of all, like the shape of, so this is some enlarging of those channels. The channels are expanding laterally, but also the channels are infilling. So you can see like the blue line shows the actual 2018 or 2019 cross section, and the red line showing like the initial the as built, like an engineering as built. So the initial configuration of the channel, and then we saw like there was a lot of infilling because we have to advise them on cross section geometry or even those channels. We are now trying to work also on sinuosity. On this network of channels, there's a lot of interest on understanding those processes. So yeah, there's like those different. You can see secondary channel, they feel like 25 centimeters. The primary channels, like a main channel, like 40 centimeters. So yeah, this is some results for the drone that we have done to create like orthophoto RGB camera that we have done structure for motion. We can create the vegetation model of our winter time because with the vegetation very low. Also, this year, finally, they burned one cell. They go there with fire, they burn all the vegetation. So I can do no vegetation study. So it's going to rebound, but because it's again, it's a playground. So there's no access for, you have to. It's US Corp engineer and maritime environmental service. You have to book an appointment to get there. It's a boat. It's an island. Of course, you have to be a boat. So it's not accessible. So it's also like a construction site. So we did some also seasonality with vegetation from spring. So because our model need the geometry and need also on the platform the right vegetation. So we have 2 different species. I can see like here, Spartina patterns, Spartina pudipara. And you can see like this Spartina patterns is kind of more resilient in winter time. But you can see like the projection from was early April, like a winter, kind of winter condition, and then spring, summer, fall, and then fall again, but like a bit colder. So then we build our model. I think it started? Yes, started. So the cell 1B, we imported all the geometry, we place all the different vegetation. The goal here is to try to understand, let's go back in the initial condition, add some vegetation, and then flood with the tides that we measure, and then see if we can recreate what we have measured in 2018. So that's the validation for the model. And then we would like to project with sea level rise this model. So, but the real big question we are working with the S Corp engineers is how to approach the channel geometry, because there are different school of thinking about the channel geometry, but we want to try to find kind of a procedure. So for sure, Well, I have to tell you like a little bit about the Popular Island project. Popular Island project, it's two goals. They have main two goals. So they dredge the sediment in the Baltimore Harbor, and they take the dredge material in place to create this new habitat for bird migration. Because like this big island was like a place for birds to rest before going to Canada and other places north. So the goal is like restoring. It also place somewhere in the sediment. So the goal is keeping the sediment inside. So flood dominance means the energy of the flooding has to be higher than the ebbing, because we need more shear stress, higher velocity, higher shear stress to bring the sediment up and put the sediment on the marsh, where we want to create more resiliency. And also we want to see the channel morphological evolution in time if it's able to face a challenge like sea level rise, for example. This is just, I'm going to go, this is just something theoretical, show you, the different, essentially, you want this charge and this velocity higher than this, right? That's more or less the goal. So then cell 5CD, it's another cell, a lot of names. So this cell is the southern part of the island. They are planning to build this 2026. So they asked me to do morphological model of this cell. So we had the project, we imported everything in GIS, we exported the generation model, and we built this kind of model. It's a real model actually in the real dimension. And we went down as much as possible with the grid cell size, 2 meters by 2 meters. And then we propagate the water level. The only forcing is the water level. And then we have also the vegetation and everything we know from Popular Island, from the other cell. We have their sediment characteristics and vegetation. We know the tides. So we want to see if, so we check first if the velocity were in a range of values that we can say, it's a real value. So we checked actually those new cross-section because we suggest them, this is a publication in 2019 from one of my students. We suggest them to do wider and shallower shape cross-section because it's able to first transmit more sediment on the marsh, but also it's impacting positively with the flood dominance. We checked it was flood dominant all along the stream of the creek. So goal number one, and then the goal number two, with wider channel show flood dominance. The second goal was try to see, are we able to send the sediment on top of the marsh? And we track with other observation points, and this is just an example with 3 observation points. We have a lot of cross-section observation points around. And we saw there is the tides we imposed. There's a microdata system, 0.5, 0.6 meter. And we saw there is a positive sedimentation on different parts of the cell, but especially close to the mouth, because essentially we saw when the tide is ebbing, increase the concentration of sediment at the mouth, and then when it's flooding back, this high concentration of sediment is disposed on top of the marsh, the marsh platform. This is again our model showing some morphological evolution. Let's see if we can start here. So in 10 years evolution, it's a 5 grams per liter concentration with what we measure there in winter time. So we want to check 0.02 kilogram per cubic meter is more conditions in summertime where we have a lot of organic matter coming from the marsh. So we have higher kind of turbidity and availability of sediment. But what we saw, probably you cannot see very well here, but you see is a clear area close to the mouth there, the inlet. So there is some deposition of sediment there. This is the color showing the sedimentation. And we have sedimentation also in the channel, but then we saw those channels deposit 4 centimeters and not 40 centimeters in 10 years, not in 5 years. So we are happy enough to say, okay, we will have some sedimentation, but also we have some sediment going on top of the marsh. So, and then we also check along with the different cross-section to see if there is any evolution. But also we discovered that since those cross-section are in equilibrium already, there's not like a sediment availability, because the sediment, probably in the first year or two, when this flooded, is suspending a lot of fine particles, because you know, the beginning is like just bare ground, it's, you know, planted marsh, and then they open the inlet and then they flood. So that first flood is gonna suspend a lot of sediment, and then you're gonna see like the first couple of months it's a lot of sediment going around, but it's not really the normal condition for flooding. So we also checked that the secondary channels, so the first was the second channel, but we saw like again, this secondary channel, since it's close to the mouth, has a higher availability of sediment, we have a higher sedimentation, because it's like how you build this network. So how you build this network of channels was like another question, like, you know, sinuosity, but so how you build, if you go in natural system, it's like a variety of channel network shapes. So now we are suggesting maybe you have to do like more of those small channels close to the mouth, because you are able to trap more sediment more than having like a very long, main channel. So yeah, that's it. No time, right? So 50.
Thank you, Will. Do we have any questions?
Curiosity, anything?
Sure. Thank you for that. That was really, really interesting. What I'm wondering about is the I'm trying to like not use my indigenous language. The species of oysters, were they indigenous to the area, or were they a different species from another space?
Good question. So, as long as I know, because I'm not an ecologist, so those are Crassotea virginica, which is like very common in the Chesapeake Bay. But the Choptank River has a specific, where we are, like Choptank River, it's actually very pricey, because it's a small, more round oyster called the Choptank sweet, because it's sweet. If you eat, it's sweet. It's not like salty. And that one is impossible to make reproducing.
Oh, okay, yeah.
In the lab. So the Crassotea virginia, there was if you look around, like there are a lot of publication, because it's I think it's easier. But yeah, if I remember correctly from my colleagues, he was telling me that it's easier. But then we have like a salinity problem there, because it's fresh, like brackish. Yeah. Even our oyster hatchery, they started operation in May. If they don't get, they do not hit like the right condition in salinity, it's a problem for the hatchery. In the last few years, we had a lot of rainy spring. It was hard to make like the oyster, because they always like also sell around for reproduction and other, you know, for farming.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So there also seemed to be quite a big population of mussels as well. So was there any reason why you didn't use the mussels on the oyster castles?
Well, we found them there. We found them, like it's actually between the oyster. Actually, I think mussels are more happy than.
Yeah, because if they're like really prolific, they might be more inclined to reproduce.
Yeah. I think there is something also like related with disease, if I remember correctly, which mussels are like more prone to get disease there. So, and I think we here have like a big hatchery for oysters, how to use oysters. But it's a good point. I would love to. We're trying to explore more. You know, now that we discovered there's like barnacles, mussels, and I found that these mussels on the living shoreline. I really want to actually have a student coming this summer, and her topic is working. She works in Europe, but she told me, I want to work with mussels. I said, okay, come. She's a visiting scholar coming probably in fall when I go back. But yeah, mussels, yeah. We found between because there's a lot of space between oysters. They feel there.
Can you eat the oysters? Of course, that's a really important question, right? Can you eat the oysters?
Married.
That's a shame. That's a shame.
Well, I think they will get. So actually, once they start to establish that there is an explosion of, I was telling the other day to Hazel and Julia, there's like, we found like a SAV on the back. There was like no SAV before, and then we found
So that's submerged aquatic.
seagrass.
Yeah.
And then also we found like blue crabs, because they like also those holes between in the oyster cast, so they go inside. So there was like rockfish, everything. People go there fishing now, but that's
Cool.
that's we get a kind of habitat, the kind of really a reef habitat. So yeah.
Sure.
Other questions? Jen?
Your channel design in the last section, where you've got it in a single step, is there a reason why you only thought of doing a single step channel design rather than a multi-step, so that in specific locations, so you can increase the amount of sediment shift?
Yeah, we thought about that. Yeah, that's sorry?
I know it's harder to model.
Yeah, that's the modeling. Yeah, the modeling is hard, and looks like if you go and talk with those companies that build, you don't want to go with them because they I want like a 1.5. So
I know.
what? I'm going with a ticker. I'm gonna do like I do my best to do like just tell me the elevation there, the elevation. Okay. So you have to also be. I cannot the cross section there from the inlet. They actually it's also armored, with the rocks. You can, I think there are some specific, because also like there's another issue, which you can see over there from the main picture of the island. So there's a private island in front. So one part of that is private. So they don't want the jetty be too long. You have to be sure that the jet of the ebbing is not hitting the island in front. So I think they also make larger to be able to reduce the flux and the velocity to do not scour or make impacts on the other side of the islands. So
It's just if you start modifying the sinuosity through it, and then on some of the backside, depending on what you're going to do, curve of the turns, you'll actually land up getting accretion of sediment and change in vegetation spots. And kind of just like you can model it and just.
you remember me another topic. So because you can imagine you go in this it's going to record, maybe you're going to cut this part, but it's we go like with a lot of agencies, and this someone cares about like geese, someone cares about like SAV, seagrass, someone cares about like fisheries. So we have to be sure that we make everybody happy. So for example, the conjunction of the two channels is important because it creates a boundary where the fish hide and then they wait for the prey to come. So really the fishery side of NOAA, they want this conjunction, like they want to really see. So we have to, make everybody happy there. Because it's like, also we did some experiment with ponds, which for me, as a wetland restoration, I said, no, please, not ponds. It's a proxy for erosion in the marsh. Why not a pond? He said, but we need to attract big fish. Okay, do the ponds. I said, now I'm monitoring the ponds, so okay, I have to monitor because we saw already erosion. So they, but you have to make everybody happy. So I think now we found the happiness in the wider channels. We say, like, okay, let's do. Your problem is water bodies. Let's do a bigger channel, so it can be like also home for fisheries, different kind of. So it's a big trade-off. This is the challenge in national best solution, because I'm as an engineer, I want to build it some way, and then the ecologist say no, not ecologists, like multiple ecologists. There's a farm fish like and seagrass. It's like it's fun.
See if there's any questions from online.
Yeah.
We do that. And we should probably, if not, we should probably think about wrapping up. Can't see any.
You stop the screen share.
Screen share, there we go. Okay. Let's see any questions from online. So I guess we're close to 1 o'clock, so we should probably just thank our speaker again. Thank you.
Diversify a bit.
So on behalf of ERI,